You have nowhere to run, and no rings to protect you. At last, I can unleash the full force of my hatred. You and all your allies will be killed by your beloved friends, the Emblems.
We have to fight! We have to rescue Marth and the others!
No, Divine One. Vale has the time crystal and the rings. We're not going to win this one. I don't have to tell you how powerful the emblems are. But we can at least survive this thing. If we make it over there, we might be able to shake off Vale.
Our situation is dire. Our friends the Emblems now abet the enemy. The four hounds, fiendishly difficult bosses we have little hope of scratching, will soon make their appearance to hunt us down. Even if we manage to win a few battles, it is for nothing. Vale, their leader, our betrayer, is flatly invulnerable. Victory is impossible. Time is not on our side. All we can do is flee for our lives. That makes this an unusual map. Chapters 1 through 5, not to mention 10, trained us to expect literally moving up in the world, or at least holding off enemy progress upward like in Chapter 8. Here the chapters literally named Retreat, and downwards we go. In the most literal sense, we're losing the progress we made in Chapter 10, just as Vale's stolen the emblems we've acquired over so many chapters. If that weren't bad enough, the loss of the Time Crystal, Alir, I'm not mad, I'm just a little confused how you let that happen, really stings. You're not used to fighting so many enemy emblems, and mistakes now mean a reset. The loss of that safety net sends a clear message. Don't try to stand and fight. This is not the map for accumulating style points. Picking up the optional Tomahawk on the west side is nice if you can manage it, but that should be a quick detour as you escape. One trick for beating escape maps is to undeploy most units, significantly reducing both danger and excitement. Engage thought of that. Here you're forced to deploy whoever you deployed for Chapter 10. Unlike a certain other Switch Fire Emblem title, however, you'll never softlock here. They've added a special retry series option that will take you back to Chapter 10 if something's gone profoundly wrong. That's a break glass option. You should be able to get out alive with almost any team if you use the few tools we have left well. Canter's a lifesaver for any slow units, and we have an enemy in range turn 1 to use as a springboard for our escape. Don't forget your staves. This is definitely not the time to hoard, and any of Restore, Freeze, Obstruct, and Rewarp could be vital. I'll also mention that Clear the Way, the level 5 Griffin Knight skill, is better here than maybe anywhere else in Engage. It removes movement penalties for tiles adjacent to the Griffin Knight, helping deal with the thick vegetation hampering our escape. I think this is the last place for my Griffin Alir propaganda. Them having flight and Clear the Way makes this map so much easier. Only Alir has to escape, so if you need to, having them able to rush to the end can be crucial. There are three main ways for things to go wrong. The first is trying to play like normal by fighting Vale's group. It's possible to defeat everyone except Vale herself, but there's no real point, and a standard team will get completely wiped even trying. That's an easy fix, just run. The second problem's the monk with Micaiah. Facing him's as terrifying as having Micaiah was comforting. He can freeze someone with Augment, pinning multiple units down at long range to be picked off later. The best thing you can do for yourself on this map is work out a turn 1 where you escape his range completely. I'll show one setup, but it'll depend on the specifics of your army. If you never let him freeze you, the others can't catch up. Well, mostly. The third threat's Sigurd. His wielder has more movement than anyone in your army, and so you will eventually have to deal with him. Unlike Chapter 2, there's no nice guy AI. He's happy to pick off a frail mage. I'll show one method for handling him, but the standard approach is just to make sure your frail units are shielded by durable units, and then pick him off once he attacks. Remember his Rider's Bane. Your great knights aren't as durable as you think. If you have one too many units who can't keep up, we now have Hyacinth's Master Seal. I've spent that seal to make Citrine a Mage Knight. On this map especially, +2 movement's a godsend. We'll get more seals soon enough, so I'd mainly allocate this one based on who needs it most now. Before we get started, I do want to mention one stylistic choice I'm making. Vale doesn't take your DLC bracelets, just the base emblems. In the interest of leaning into the story beat and demonstrating a broadly applicable approach, however, I'm putting them in storage for this map. While I do think no DLC will make this a better watch, I don't want to get carried away projecting some idea of the developer's intended experience onto the game. Engaged creators could have taken away your DLC if they wanted to, and whether you prefer the experience one way or another is up to taste. On repeat playthroughs, I usually welcome having something to spice up this map, and if I weren't showing the cutscenes and making a guide, I'd equip them here. After our escape, I'll re-equip the DLC, and with more of a spotlight, they'll enable some exciting strategies in upcoming maps. Let's get out of here. The monk's freeze range is actually less than it seems because a different unit blocks him. We'll take extra precautions and use Obstruct, activating Canter. Enemy Roy's a great Canter stepping stone. The units with Canter can make room for stragglers, giving us enough squares to work with. Make sure whoever takes the archer hit won't die to Ragnarok, which is 30 magical attack. Anna will take the kill.
Let's hear it.
On most runs, I'm just trying to survive here, but with more planning I can afford other goals. We're about to get several more Master Seals, so I want the recipients to hit their next level to avoid wasted XP.
Right.
Anna's already promoted, but there's a map coming up where she'll need every stat point she can get.
You got it! You're pretty tough, you know.
There's a ring! Now's our chance!
I think not.
Vale!
I so enjoy your flailing. Say the word.
It's hard for me to get into this headspace now, but I remember Vale taking the rings back here being a real gut punch when I first played Chapter 11. There's something about this chapter's
Very well.
subversion of the core expectation that you make meaningful progress each map that I find powerful. What Vale doesn't say here is that she assigns the next user of the ring at random the turn after you take out the previous user, with a few scripted exceptions, and that anyone who gets an emblem automatically aggroes and begins charging you. That heavy dose of RNG makes this map pretty brutal to plan for, which is kind of the point. We've accomplished our most important goal. No one's going to get frozen. The enemy ordering here makes things harder. It gives the enemy Celica user plenty of time to see a kill. The Master Lance continues to be unimpressive, but if it hits, not many units can live that plus Ragnarok. Sometimes this monk breaks the obstruction, which means he's a lot closer next turn. Sometimes he moves off to the east.
Go, my corrupted soldiers. Kill their every last shred of hope.
I can't easily replay enemy movements here, and there's a ton of aforementioned RNG, so I make zero guarantees any of this is reliable. One reliable move is Anna's L-Surge negating the archer's plus 60 avoid.
One strike, all in a day's work.
I've had my eye on you.
Enemy Leaf is a pushover if you get him using the Master Lance, but do be careful. I got my Amber killed by a Vantage Killer Axe crit while planning. Getting the kill with Thunder sidesteps the danger.
I claim this victory.
Amber taking out mages never gets old. Who needs resistance if you have a really big stick?
Just like a hero.
Jean can one-shot the Marth Flyer with a longbow. This maneuver is unfortunately a rather important part of the clear. If you don't have any capable archers, you'll need a different plan for Marth that hopefully doesn't include getting frozen and killed. My poor guy Ulcris must envy Yunaka getting to go out on top. He's just trying not to die here. Saline gets a target for Canter. Alir will bring the next route forward so my units can gang up on them. We're now returning to the comfortable leapfrog rhythm you get without juggernauts. I did throw shade at 3 houses earlier for potentially soft-locking players with a map they can't easily prep for, but to be fair, the idea of taking away your rewinds was originally planned for the last map of that game's Silver Snow Route. It makes a strong impression here. Even though plenty of Fire Emblem games don't have rewinds at all, once you get used to them, it feels terrible to have the mechanic taken away. Engage excels at using its mechanics to reinforce the narrative and vice versa. Losing the Time Crystal emphasizes a low point in the story, especially after Chapter 10 serves as the tactical culmination of Act 1. If the Sigurd user can't attack anyone, he can't activate Canter, so his movement here is as consistent as you're going to get. The freeze danger zone's just a little too big for a clean kill here, but Sailing can fix that with my favorite staff, Obstruct, available now at an item shop near you. Like the start, we can use Roy as a stepping stone for Canter. Also like the start, Anna will take the kill. Amber's going off to grab the Tomahawk. That guy's AI is passive, so you do need to actively pursue him. The enemies thin out a bit here, so definitely take a breather turn to handle Sigurd or whatever else if you need it.
I'll protect you.
I'm pretty tough, you know.
The axe armor has a hammer, which, with effectiveness, could actually hurt Lapis. She'd be fine, and I'd actually prefer he do that. But at 2 range, all he has is the Master Lance, and he doesn't bother attacking.
Our foes are strong.
A citrine that doubles is a citrine that kills, more often than not. She's able to handle Sigurd's wielding no problem. Enemy AI thankfully doesn't understand concepts like having one unit break the obstruction, so the monk could enter that tile and hit a freeze on citrine. I'm compelled to mention that, thanks to Aspiring Hero, Amber's more accurate against this foe than even units with much better dexterity.
Just like a hero.
While you see me nervously trying to avoid an embarrassing reset in my video about how to avoid a reset here, I'll talk about a different source of anxiety, keeping up with stat checks going forward. Feeding Anna kills only came to mind because I played through to the map Anna was supposed to shine on, and realized she couldn't hack it. My planning Anna's got more early experience, and I didn't notice how razor thin my margins were then. It's a good example of the rhythm I've found myself in doing this kind of highly planned run for the first time. Engage adheres to a tried and true difficulty curve, spacing out the big maps between less intense ones. Before maps like Chapter 10, there are maps like Chapter 9, where I'm free to pursue training goals. In the same way, I often plan individual clears working backwards from what I need for the toughest turns. I try to play through to demanding maps without sweating the details, figure out both what I want to do and what I need to do that, and then go back to fill in the less demanding clears. A good previous example is Chapter 10. If Sailing didn't hit her speed benchmark there, I would have needed some major rerouting in the preceding maps to adjust. YouTube me is quite good at thinking ahead, but the real me usually needs to find out the hard way why something won't work. Engage has a reputation as a game with crazy stat stacking, but once you fix a particular emblem and weapon, you have few other options. I had planned speed augmenting Nosferatu anyway, but besides a tedious meal rig, I didn't have an alternative. We'll eventually get more flexible tools for boosting stats, which will significantly ease my planning burden. But before that, it's a little intimidating to imagine realizing I literally have no way to execute a cool idea in my notes. What we're seeing here is a look behind the curtain, how I spend most of my time playing Fire Emblem. Three Houses was the title that really got me into the series and where I really cut my teeth, and so I've never trained away my impulsivity the way people who got into the series before rewinds often have. My notes don't quite pan out here due to different emblem luck, and in hindsight, Diamant needed not to block Citrine in this timeline. You'll even see me reflexively try to use the time crystal in a moment. In casual runs, I normally try to play through misplays and fix them only if I end up rewinding anyway. One of the reasons I started this series was to see what I could do by setting myself higher standards. That means I plan with a hair trigger, rewinding for even minor mistakes. Most clears you've seen required running out of rewinds several times to plan out. Some players see the rewind mechanic as a crutch limiting your growth as a tactician, which isn't totally off base. I do find it tough to go back and play older games with my modern Fire Emblem habits.
Is it go time?
The thing is, there's no free lunch. I can't help but see a lot of content for older titles as lethargic in comparison to Engage, in no small part because of the need for higher reliability. I've grown the most as a Fire Emblem player when challenging myself to move a little outside my comfort zone, whatever that means. Playing faster, making fewer mistakes, using different tactics, etc. Throughout the flailing you've just witnessed, one of my main goals was to keep pace with my notes. If your first impulse when an enemy doesn't cooperate is to hunker down and play defense, or lean on a juggernaut, I think that can be just as limiting as reliance on turning back the clock. I eventually decide Anna's needed for the leaf armor, so that means we'll have shaky hit rates against the monk, no L surge.
All in a day's work.
Chaos Style is a great ability. I'm glad we have it now. Alear will actually come through for us, thankfully, so from here on I can mostly follow my notes.
For Faraday!
I will not forget your loss.
Close. Dream well.
I will be a hero!
Alright, Amber.
Settles it.
The sad piano's getting me down, man. You know what would cheer me up? Some friendship.
The corrupted alone aren't enough. Hounds, take care of these pests.
I understand what must be done.
Which of those morons is gonna be my first victim?
Orders are orders. I just hope the other side gets a few good slices on me.
We won't let them escape, Lady Vale. You have my word.
More enemies are coming. We cannot allow them to slow us down.
They're cutting us off. How can we endure this?
The Divine Dragon's forces. Good. I was afraid we wouldn't catch them in time.
It does not look so good to me. They are being chased, and they have no emblems. We had best get them these rings.
I am back, Princess Ivy.
Zelkov, how did you fare?
I was unable to recover the stolen rings from the Dragon Girl, but I did get this.
Oh, pretty crystal.
Perhaps these gifts will be enough to get them out of this bind.
Let's hope so. Hello, Divine One.
Princess Ivy? Why are you here?
I wanted to try one last time to change my father's mind. I was too late, but I did retrieve these rings from Destinia Cathedral.
You got 2 rings.
Yes, here they are. The ring of the Lady of the Plains, and the ring of the Princess Exiled.
Are you sure about this? Turning against your own country?
Right now, turning against Elusia is the only way to save it. For my kingdom, for my father. This is the only course of action. I know this isn't enough to atone for all I've done, but... will you let me join your side?
Of course I will. Thank you. The ring of the Lady of the Plains belongs with you, since it was entrusted to Elusia. Sweep across! Emblem of Blazing!
I'm Lindis. Just call me Lynn. Ready to turn this battle around?
Reignite us! Emblem of Awakening! Marth? No, that can't be right.
It is I, Lucina.
Lucina!
I may not be the Hero King, and I cannot replace him, but I can aid you. I strive to be a light in the dark, a light for all who have fallen to despair. For now we may only escape, but as long as we survive, hope will abide. Now, engage with me.
I have one more gift for you, Divine One.
The Draconic Time Crystal! How did you get it?
I borrowed it. While it is not one of the stolen rings, perhaps it will help.
Thank you.
For reference, the 4 hounds showing up in this sequence playing out happens to turn after any unit reaches the row with the bottom water tile. We now have several very good reasons to cheer up. This is, by a country mile, the most important recruitment in the game. I have a lot to talk about, so get your popcorn, get your onigiri, get your tiramisu, and get excited. Lyn and Lucina need a special introduction. They're powerful enough to break fundamental rules of Fire Emblem, and I think that's worth highlighting. This prelude develops the ideas in my Chapter 8 Somnial video when I discuss stat boosters. We can imagine a marginal utility curve for each stat. If I already have a certain amount of it, how valuable is an extra point? That'll look different for each stat, and having a sense of those curves can inform your strategy across many different Fire Emblem games. This will clearly need to be quite generalized. On a given map, things may look quite different, but I do think there are broad patterns that hold true more often than not. Extra strength or magic matter most when they turn non-kills into kills. They're most useful when you're already powerful enough to nearly kill, and they fall off when you do overkill damage. Speed has 2 thresholds for offense and defense, not being doubled and doubling. Because you generally control who's fighting whom, it's more important to have units that can double foes than it is to have everyone on your team avoid doubles themselves. Defense and resistance give better and better returns the more you have. Going from 2 to 1 damage taken literally doubles your bulk. With engaged maddening AI, taking 0 damage wraps back around to often being worse than taking 1 damage. Dexterity matters most when changing a miss to a hit. Sometimes for long enemy phases, the last few points of hit do matter. I gave a Dex tonic to Saline last map despite her 95 listed hit. But there's still significant diminishing returns once you're decently reliable. That's especially true in Engage, because bad luck's absorbed into a pool of rewinds instead of immediately forcing a reset. Luck matters most when changing an enemy crit to a non-crit, especially over long enemy phases where RNG manipulation is difficult. After that, it barely matters. These shapes are broadly similar across Fire Emblem titles. Where games differ is how much of each stat your army is likely to have. In other words, different games move these curves to the right or left. If we superimpose these curves and broadly approximate some idea of what an average unit has, you get a sense of why the standard advice about stat boosters and emblem assignments is the standard. Units who have so much strength or magic they don't care about additional points are a pipe dream. Even my Amber, who has effective strength plus 5 on player phase, and the best strength stat in the game, and a stat booster, still has benchmarks he misses. On the other hand, lots of units have all the accuracy or crit avoid they really need. Speed, defense, and resistance are more complicated, because enemies have a huge range of speed and damage values. Sometimes a unit has all the speed or bulk they want for a particular task, but you're never going to have so much of either there's no point in getting more. If you're wondering how to use stat boosters or most emblem boosts and want the oversimplified version, this diagram explains the advice I'd give. Give damage boosts to whoever has the most already. Conversely, boost dex and luck for the units who have the least already. If I had to choose a rule for speed and bulk, something like your second fastest or second bulkiest unit would probably be my pick, but that's even more of an oversimplification than the others. Why talk about this now? Remember, this is marginal utility, small boosts. Most emblems and stat boosters give small boosts, 5 or fewer of any one stat. What if, instead of a talisman giving +2 resistance, we had a super talisman giving +20? That's not a marginal improvement, so using it the way you'd use a normal talisman would waste it. Amber would love +20 resistance. It'd make him a great enemy phase unit even against mages. Chloe, who I gave my first talisman to, would simply scare away mages with +20. Even without maddening AI, units have enough HP that taking 0 instead of 2 damage rarely matters. When I first played Engage, I saw Lyn and Lucina as emblems like any other, giving marginal boosts. How wrong I was. If you use them as you would most emblems, you'll squander their talents. I'll stop talking in riddles now and get down to specifics. Lyn's a fan favorite, and boy did she do her fans proud. My hypothetical res +20 super talisman wouldn't be that broken. Resistance is one of the worst stats. What's the best basic stat? Speed, the only one that can double damage and applies on both phases. Can you imagine getting +20 speed? Enter Lyn. She gives speed +5 for free at max bond. Her sync skill Speed Taker gives you +2 speed for every unit you kill on player phase, stacking up to +10. Her level 15 weapon, Millick, is a ridiculous 16 might bow with innate +5 speed. That's +20 before meals, inherits, rallies, you name it. Engage caps stat stacks at +20. Much like Micaiah with a 100 XP cap, running into that literal speed limit is an amazing problem to have. In practice, Speed Taker isn't going to be fully active all the time, and you aren't always using Millick. Even so, Lyn can often take a unit from getting doubled to doubling. That's not something a Speedwing or Marth could give you, and so Lyn's fantastic on slow-ish units. She joins with Ivy, a mage who seemingly pairs poorly with a physical bow emblem, but this is actually the game hinting at how powerful the raw speed can be on any unit. An Ivy with Bolganone would be hopelessly unable to double everything without Lyn, but with her you can hit the thresholds you need to basically one-round any enemy. There's no emblem even close to giving +20 magic. If you want a unit with high magic and speed, Lyn's your best option by a mile, using forges and heavier weapons to convert some of that speed into damage. Lyn's got more than just raw stats going for her. Her engage skill, called Doubles, lets a unit spawn 1 HP doppelgangers around them, that chain attack alongside the user even from afar. Though chain attacks rarely matter, Lyn users need the help less than anyone, but the ability to spawn decoys for enemy AI can't be underestimated. Enemies go for kills over basically everything else, and to them every double is a kill. There's nothing that can save you after a seemingly unrecoverable setback the way they can. It's also a non-DLC way of cheesing enemy formations the way Veronica can, baiting a group of enemies with overlapping ranges who would kill any actual unit in their sights. With enough avoid, the doubles become quite hard to hit, and seeing a 1 HP double dodge 3 attacks is great fun. You can't give them 1-2 range weapons, sadly. They always have Lyn's rapier like Manikari. You'll generally want to use them as cannon fodder and not for damage. Her engage attack, Astra Storm, is by far the longest range you can get without DLC, by default a 10 range 5 hit bow attack. If you've seen how useful effective damage on overrides can be, having that built in against flyers makes this more powerful than it seems. Especially on covert units who get 20 range, Astra Storm can get pretty ridiculous. Even if it doesn't kill, many powerful bosses are coded to start moving only once attacked. It can get messy, but few tools are able to totally break maps like Astra Storm can when forcing enemies out of formation. If that's not your style, Astra Storm can always set up a boss kill while the Lyn user's off somewhere else. It's hard to have it kill anything except flyers, because it's doing less damage than simply doubling. Alacrity is Lyn's only other notable skill, essentially a version of Desperation from 3 houses. If you would double by some margin, you get to attack twice before the enemy can counter. This is great on player phase for exactly the frail, powerful units you might have Lyn with. If you see someone online talk about how a unit is underrated, it's a solid 50% chance the next sentence will be, "I gave them Lyn and they were amazing throughout the game." I'd compare her to 3 houses as an emblem that single-handedly carries mediocre units to greatness. Unlike 3 houses, a player phase emblem that doesn't have the same impact for the very best, Lyn can do even better than greatness when paired with her ideal partner, a powerful unit with 1-2 range who just needs speed. If Lyn and Ivy, a unit who meets this description perfectly, aren't the most powerful duo in the game, they're not far off. I mostly pair emblems with some approximation of their best pairing, but for Lyn I often find myself making an exception. The best Lyn users can become quite centralizing. Sometimes it feels like you feed a unit kills for Speed Taker, they get even more kills wiping out the map on enemy phase, and your other units just kinda sit and watch. Call doubles and Asher Storm have real depth, but Lyn's best users normally don't have to bother. Any unit that attacks a double is a unit that didn't get one-rounded by the Lyn user themselves, and the best 1-2 range by far comes from mages with weak Asher Storms. That's where other Lyn builds come in. A unit like Etier, or of course Amber, can be a joy to field using Lyn in something like Warrior. With their high strength, they'll hit like a truck, and when they do that twice, few foes can handle it. Lyn's effective engage weaponry is a nice bonus. Call doubles is usually not an engage skill you need to carefully ration, and Asher Storm almost always has a good target, so engaging just to hit something with a Monogatari isn't normally a problem. Without any dominant 1-2 range option, however, you're limited in how much you can just waltz into enemy groups and solo them. Slow, bulky units like Jade can become nigh unkillable with Lyn, but Lyn doesn't give any direct damage boosts, so you're often not one-routing whenever it attacks you unless you have effective damage. Fast units like Thieves and Griffin or Wyvern Knights can go for dodge-hanging strategies, spawning devils enemies can't hit and trying for overkill speed. It's worth noting that there are no bow flyer classes. Much like we use Celica to give you Nakatomi she couldn't otherwise get, having a Wyvern with a bow sometimes lets you cheat the system. Snipers and Thieves get that juicy 20 range Asher Storm, which can open up possibilities you may never have explored before. I won't tie myself in knots trying to argue any of these pairings are remotely as good as high magic builds, but I do think if you just autopilot and pair Lyn with a mage every run, you're missing out. Lyn's so much fun in part because she carries units to greatness in vastly different ways. She shapes how you approach each map, and with different pairings you'll discover new ways of approaching the game. As you might guess, in a run where I have lots to show off, Lyn will get the Micaiah treatment. I'll demonstrate what she can do, but I won't let her dominance get in the way of showcasing other stuff. That means this analysis is where I have to get my gushing out of the way. Lyn can easily be the best emblem of a campaign. She helps you achieve whatever goals you have. If you're playing without DLC and jealous of how some of those tools can sidestep challenging obstacles, Lyn's your ticket to achieving similar things by baiting enemies with call doubles and Asher Storm. If you want your favorite character to become a superstar, Lyn's your woman. If you're trying to beat the game before dinner time, Lyn and Ivy are a pretty good bet. Lyn's a lot of fun, in case you couldn't tell, and she casts a long shadow over Engage's metagame. After all that Lyn fanboying, I don't even think she was the best or most important emblem in her own join chapter. Lucina isn't as obviously good as plus 20 speed, so let's dive in to see what she can do. Her primary sync skill, Dual Strike, lets anyone chain attack like a backup. That means they can fly or ride a mount and still chip into every attack against a boss. Another skill, Dual Assist, extends the chain attack range to anything the unit could move to attack, at the cost of a lowered activation rate for those long-range chips. One important mechanic to be aware of is that poison from daggers applies even on chain attacks. A Wolf Knight can use Lucina to apply poison on half a dozen foes in a single turn without even using their action, and that class makes quite a natural pairing with Lucina. The percent chance in Dual Assist's activation makes it difficult to recommend as an easy game plan, but on a player-face-oriented team, you can often adjust on the fly to the dice rolls, so long as you have a reserve unit or two in the back to clean up whoever the Lucina user missed. You can also go all in on chain attack spam by inheriting Dual Assist Plus on a bunch of heroes with Brave Assist, which is a blast, but I'm not sure I'd call that a cakewalk. Lucina's engage attack flips the script by having all allies within range chain attack for the Lucina user. It's maybe the weakest engage attack in the game. A single sword hit just isn't going to do much, and when a major selling point of most engage attacks is perfect reliability, having to do binomial probability math on the fly to figure out how likely it is you get 5 out of 8 chain attacks may not be your cup of tea. Also, as we're about to see, you have much better things to be using your turn for. Lucina's weapons are, you'll never guess, all tweaks of Marth's weapons. Parthia is the most interesting, like Mercurius it doubles XP, but it's a bow instead of a sword. It's a clever twist. Marth's Mercurius helps you snowball with a primary combat unit, but even though Parthia has the same effect, it's instead a way to help underleveled support units catch up quickly. It also rounds out her effective damage nicely, covering flyers to supplement her other options against cavalry, armor, and dragons. For an emblem lacking a damage bonus, at least while engaged, you have options against many foes. Still, it's easy to literally never use these. Let's finally talk about why. Lucina's engage skill, Bonded Shield, is an action like Contract or Call Doubles. It protects adjacent allies from the first hit of every foe that attacks them on enemy phase. Think of it as a chain guard without the HP loss, so it works for an entire turn. The downside is that, by default, it's only an 80% chance. That's not good. Luckily, Lucina has battle style bonuses. Dragons get a 90% activation rate. Armors, cavalry, and flyers get 100% activation with other units of the same type. Chi Adepts get 100% activation rate with anyone. I've buried the lead in this review talking about her other cool stuff. Bondage Shield is broken. It competes with Augment for the single best skill in the game. Lyn can give plus 20 speed, sure, but Lucina can give plus infinity defense and resistance. It's actually a lot better than that, because just like Chain Guards, it tricks enemy AI. You often want to build your team around the Cav and Flyer synergies. They're meta-defining in the most literal sense. A good glass cannon should be paired with an 100% Bondage Shield partner, preferably one they support. There's no other emblem that has such a big impact on team building. It's mighty convenient I have a durable cavalry Lapis to support my Mage Knights, isn't it? With Recreation, I already have A supports with Anna and Citrine. That's 15 extra hit. Why I mention Lapis's durability is that Bondage Shield doesn't by itself attract enemy attention. You need the normal targeting rules to favor attacking the shieldee instead of the shielder. That generally means minimizing expected damage on the Lucina user. With frailer Lucina users, it's still possible to manipulate enemy AI by dangling a potential break or keeping the shieldee at low health to make foes see a kill. Lucina doesn't give defense or resistance, but she does give speed and luck. Expected damage is the key word, so evasion's another way to make enemies cooperate. Conveniently, Lucina has a great skill for that, dual support. It gives fairly large avoid buffs from the power of friendship. A unit like a Lear or Fran can stack enough avoid to be ignored by foes and funnel them into their doom. This is another way that Lucina shapes the metagame. Supports really do matter for this skill in particular. I should also take a moment to highlight a Lear here. Lucina's a perfect fit for them. They aren't paired on this map just because it's a cute callback to gaining Marth halfway through Chapter 1. Divinely Inspiring and Bondage Shield are a match made in heaven, and then dual support with a perfect support list is the cherry on top. The 90% activation rate in Dragon isn't ideal, but any of Chi Adept, Cavalry, or Flying with Lucina make a strong case for Lear's best build. Boosts that apply to other units are so powerful because they compose effectively. Other emblems can massively increase their wielder's bulk, but that comes at the cost of not being able to use another emblem for offense. Lucina gives a unit infinite bulk on top of what they were already doing with her own emblem. In particular, combining Lyn and Lucina is the single easiest way to dominate maddening enemies. Take a unit with raw magic like Citrine or Ivy, get them doubling with Lyn, then give them infinite bulk with Bondage Shield. Use your invincible super unit to clear half the map, and then clean up anyone left alive. The 3-turn time limit does matter. You'll still have to play the game occasionally. Ghosts can't kill you though, and on many maps half the enemies are 6 feet under by the time your mage can even take damage. Even if Lucina doesn't beat the map in 3 turns, taking out enemies by the dozen gives you space to maneuver your other units. My Chapter 10 clear relied on being able to have one unit take on Goldmary's entire group. Sailing didn't solo the map, but we couldn't have done it without her. Lucina is often the same way, letting 2 units beat an army 10 times larger so your other units can fight on more even footing. If you need more turns of Bondage Shield, you can use energy tiles or favorite food to keep the steamroller steamrolling. Lucina is our second reminder after Micaiah that Engage's difficulty is optional. As a veteran player making content for the game, it'd be easy to get defensive about that. I'd certainly flatter myself by instead telling you that beating Engage maddening requires rare genius, careful study of this series, and a brilliant strategic mind. I'm not kidding anyone. If all you knew about Engage was that Micaiah, Lucina, and Lyn were really good, you could probably beat the game faster than I will. Sailing with Nosferatu is a cool strat I'm happy I could show, but spamming Bondage Shield with our new recruits is objectively better by almost any quantifiable metric. I've given Lapis plenty of spotlight for her bulk, but now everyone has access to that. Who needs Great Knight when you're already invincible? There's a bit of lost innocence with Lucina if you think Engage demands much precision. Just as we lose one crutch in Micaiah, we get another in Lucina, and so you can ignore most of the game's depth and still win easily. The lack of balance isn't a bug though, it's a feature. I've really come to appreciate the thoughtfulness of Engage's design making this series. Right after a brutal gut punch in the story, losing the power recruit over a dozen maps, we get half of the consensus 4 best units in the game. We also get 2 new emblems, both extraordinarily popular characters an average Nintendo gamer picking up their first Fire Emblem game may already know and love. That those fan favorites are also half of the consensus 4 best emblems in the game is not an oversight. Engage wants you to have fun, and because different players have such a large range of difficulty preferences, 1 of 3 options at the start doesn't suffice. Tools like Bondage Shield give you recourse when something's too hard for your liking. It isn't a glitch you should feel bad about using, and similarly, you shouldn't feel bad focusing on other ways to beat the game. If you want best girl Citrine to get hundreds of kills, Lucina and Lyn are the answer to your prayers. If you want to thin out a brutal enemy formation so your fun player phase units aren't overwhelmed, Lucina's your best bet. If you want to just get a map you don't vibe with out of the way, Lucina's the first person you should think of, at least until Micaiah returns. If you want to clear maps through careful maneuvering, Lucina's tons of fun on a thief instead, stacking poison and dodge tanking, or on a hero enabling fancy player phase strats. No one's forcing you to use Lucina's tools, but having the option gives you new ways to express yourself as a player. We'll see plenty of Bondage Shield. I consider it the dominant strategy of Engage, mandatory for any series purporting to be a guide to the game, and I enjoy Engage most when Lucina lets me play faster and with freer team building than I could otherwise. I'll balance that power with my desire for tactical variety. I can't tell you how you'll enjoy using Lucina. I am the messenger telling you that if, like me, you didn't quite get Lucina your first time playing Engage, the game's about to open up for you in a big way. The Crown Princess of Elusia and Queen of the Tier List has arrived. I have lots to say, so here's the short version. Ivy's great in every way a unit can be. She's a fantastic juggernaut with heavy investment and a great support unit with low investment. She contributes a lot at base with zero training whatsoever, does a ton if you care about low turn counts, and even helps anyone who simply forgot to train a staffer. She's not the best at everything, but she can make any team better in some role. To figure out how, let's dive in. Most royal classes are an existing class plus a few points at bases and a nifty skill. Diamant's Successeur is Axe Hero plus Soul, more or less. The Illusion Royals are different. They're the only units who can use tomes while flying. Try as they might, none of your other mages can fully replicate what Lindworm offers. Ivy would be viable almost no matter her stats. Ivy's stats aren't the bare minimum, in fact they're rather good. Her closest comparison is Citrine, trading a few points of magic and luck for a lot of defense. Citrine's one of the better units in the game without Lindworm access. If you're interested in beating Maddening as easily as possible, pairing a powerful mage with Lyn and supporting them with Lucina is what I'd suggest as the main strategy for clearing enemies. Ivy's one of the few powerful mages who can most easily hit the necessary benchmarks to do that. If magic and attack speed are all you need because Lucina is protecting you from damage, and you can afford the best engraves and supports for increasing hit, Ivy's almost as good as Jean or Anna in that role with way less investment. That's comparing Lindworm to Mage Knight. If you need your Bondage Shield Sweeper to fly, which does often matter, Ivy's truly in a class of her own. Reclassing Anna or Jean to Griffin suddenly erases their magic lead, and there's no emblem that can give them enough magic offense to top out higher than Ivy can with Lyn. In efficient contexts, whatever that means, Ivy's flight matters more than ever, but so does her defense. With enough planning and investment, Ivy doesn't always need Lucina to survive. Especially with the full Lyn speed stack, you can often just send Ivy in the danger and watch her dominate on enemy phase. There's no engage meter or positioning to worry about. Flying staff utility can also certainly help you clear maps quickly. Ivy is not perfect. Her luck is truly awful. Fram had more in Chapter 2. And she's a lot like Diamant with her dexterity. The base is pretty good, but her growth is bad and her cap is a distressing 23 in Lindworm. Like Diamant, her personal is a conditional hit boost, but a boost that only applies when you haven't killed an enemy after a round of combat isn't ideal. You can fix reliability with engraves and supports, and rewind suffice on very short maps where you're not doing that much combat, but that's all an opportunity cost. Problems you can fix are still problems if you have to fix them. As a totally unbiased comparison, Anna doesn't have any reliability issues, with better offense across the board in Mage Knight. Ivy's much better start, flight, staff access, and defense can outweigh that, but just because you see some tier list putting one at the top and one at the bottom, doesn't mean that's how you should evaluate both units. It's worth highlighting just how demanding Ivy's best builds are. I'd certainly hope a unit who gets one of the best emblems in the game, stat boosters, SP books, kills spoon-fed to her to get speed taker rolling each map, the best engraved Volcanon Forge money can buy, and perhaps an ideal Bondage Shield partner would be pretty good. Ivy's not on top of tier list because she does all that for free, she's getting carried by Lyn and favoritism as much as anyone. It's rather that she enhances the normal Lyn carry package in ways other units can't. If you're not using those unique advantages, you don't mind breaking out the warp staff for the few maps flight really matters for, you don't care about a few extra turns here and there, and you're okay with a cavalry Lucina user, you may prefer a unit without Ivy's weaknesses. Alright, so that's the famed high investment Ivy. What about runs like this one, where I'm not having a handful of units do all the work? In that context, I'd pitch Ivy's Lindworm as a flying sage with better defense. That has a couple important ramifications I haven't mentioned. For the mixed support duties many sages get, Ivy's a great candidate. Sage Citrine will evaporate if someone looks at her funny, but Ivy can find airborne pockets of safety or take a hit here and there. The key trade-off is mystical synergy. Some teams rely on those, some prefer the flying synergies, and some are agnostic. Ivy's lower dex and luck don't matter much for taking out enemy armors, and support staves can't miss. Even if you do miss, a rewind here and there isn't so bad on player phase. My favorite support Ivy build is with Corrin. Flying 3-range Dreadful Aura is unique to the Elusian Royals. Ivy can freeze groups in place from safety, debuff bosses, and use staves when her other talents aren't required. As the first unit to hit a boss, she can apply Draconic Hex from 3 range without being counterattacked, and if she's then part of a dance, she'll be able to use her personal, single-minded, for a more reliable second attack. Corrin's abilities apply even if you miss, so it's a build with low investment and high upside. The other key benefit of being a flying sage is on runs with lots of flyers. If you're planning to lean into flying Bondage Shield and keep most units airborne, say with Griffin O'Lear, Sword Griffin Chloe, a Wyvern or two, Ivy's a much more natural pairing than a sage, both because she can use or receive the Bondage Shield buff if needed, and because she can use staves in impassable terrain. If you invest everything in a couple units, Ivy's ceiling exceeds anything we've seen so far. It's easy to look at a tier list and assume the same holds true in a run like this one with a balanced team, but I find it's easy to overrate Ivy in that context. She's still amazing, clearly, but if you aren't actively using her unique traits, other units can do standard Bondage Shield combat more reliably and with early skill inherits. As a support unit, on the other hand, there's a lot of cool stuff Ivy can do with Corrin, Byleth, and the like that those other mages can't. In Pokemon, there's a concept of role compression. Many competitive staples aren't dominant at any one thing, but rather check many boxes at once, so you can more freely select your other team slots. Utility Ivy is the closest equivalent to those staples in Engage. Basically no other unit can fly, use staves, and one-round enemy generals simultaneously, and certainly no alternatives are easier to get going. No matter your team construction, pace of play, or favoritism, Ivy makes your team better. Fire Emblem novices might be surprised to learn Ivy is not Fire Emblem's first big sister princess from the morally dubious region with controversial sartorial choices joining mid-battle with her 2 retainers to save your bacon between a difficult Chapter 10 and the next visit to the hub area, who uses magic while flying with a wyvern and dominates the metagame. Cynical Fire Emblem veterans might see Ivy as Camilla 2.0 and roll their eyes. This time, she literally worships the main character instead of just figuratively worshipping them. The comparison's not entirely unwarranted. Ivy's pretty busted, does have all of the character traits in common, and on many tier lists for Engage and Conquest, Ivy and Camilla share first place. That's not the whole story. If you look a little deeper, which I've tried to do for everyone in Engage, there's a lot to like about Ivy beneath her femme fatale facade. In her supports, that facade falls, and at heart, she's comedically quirky like many Engage characters, while still maintaining the elegance and maturity of a crown princess. Reva Burr's stellar performance captures that duality, and if you've never seen Ivy supports, you might be pleasantly surprised by who she is when not affecting the villainous the father who left her to die wanted her to be. Her gameplay also iterates on Camilla. Yes, Ivy's great, but nowhere close to Camilla's statistical dominance, and she has key limitations holding her back. She has a place on any team, but she's by no means a unit you have to use. If you do, she's just as capable helping other units shine as she is sailing through the game 2 Bolganones at a time. I feel a little sorry for Zelkov. He's not bad, yet it seems like Engage goes out of its way to relegate him to the background. Wait, don't leave. I'll stop doing that. The Chapter 11 recruits are quite high level, like other first recruits in a region. Despite pretty hardcore XP grinding and 3 DLC maps, Zelkov's coming in higher level than almost anyone on my team. He has the stats to match, so he'll always be able to contribute right out of the gate. His bases aren't incredible if you compare him to other units at the same level, but he's probably not at their level right now, and that has to count for something. His growths contrast Yunaka's, like other second units in a class. He's more physically oriented and slower. His stat spread's quite unusual, so comparison is tricky, but maybe think a less min-maxed Amber. For all-in dodge tanking with Thief and Corrin, you'd rather have Yunaka's stats. Enemy mages are the only units that ignore a void from terrain, so her extra resistance matters, and his high build is wasted. In Warrior or Wyvern, he's competent but not exceptional. We're going to get a lot of exceptional units over the next few maps, and being alright at physical combat will no longer be a valuable niche. His joined circumstances do him no favors. He's the only unit or emblem in Chapter 11 who I've never intentionally underutilized in the interest of balance. With that company, he seems bad, even if he's basically average among the cast as a whole. If he joined when Yunaka did, he'd probably be an upgrade. Zelkov's better suited to physical combat in the early game, so unless you use my Celica strats, he'd be better. Plus, he'd have access to early skills, as is he waits the longest for Cantor. For mere mortals, that's a big deal, and it means he's less flexible than someone like Diamant, even if his stats are more than a match. What's Zelkov's value proposition over other units if you aren't just using him because you like his soft side or because he's the highest level unit you have? I think there's two main niches to consider. The first is as a dagger user with better bases than Yunaka. Forging a dagger at +5 adds 9 might, and you might want to get started on that at some point. You can easily give him a 14 might low weight 1-2 range weapon right now, and then he'll stand out from other units stuck with hand axes or javelins. If you haven't trained many Fiorne or Brodia units, Zelkov can still fill a niche the way Yunaka did when we had almost no good units. You can then have him pass the baton to Marin, who has the best stats of the native dagger users by a large margin, and he'll have done his part. At that point he's approaching level 21, when you can reclass him and he'll merit a deployment slot plugging a hole in your army. Zelkov's second niche is as a covert thief for specific emblem synergies. Anyone who early promotes and then reclasses into promoted thief gets boosted to level 21 without getting any stats. That's a disaster. Your options for a covert unit at this point in the game are then Yunaka, units who second seal into level 1 thief, and snipers. Zelkov's pretty darn good among that crowd. With covert units, Lin has 20 range Asterstorm and extra avoid on doubles. Zelkov's speed is his main weakness, so when you fix that he becomes a great enemy phase juggernaut. There are better Lin users, you need a Chi Adept Lucina user to bondage shield him reliably, and there are a lot of high defense foes you'll nether one round. But it's hard to complain about a unit who can wipe out entire groups on enemy phase. Unlike most mages, he's not reliant on bondage shield thanks to his good defense. 20 range Asterstorm is a fun cherry on top that gives him a niche over Wolf Knights doing the same thing. Plus, especially with his personal giving enemy phase avoid and covert boosted terrain bonuses, he can be incredibly durable, avoiding hits and taking the ones that do come well. Just be careful around magic. Corrin's covert synergy is spawnable smoke for +30 avoid, which for coverts is +60. The way people talk about Yunaka, you'd think this was her personal build. Zelkov can do basically the same thing, with far less waiting for Corrin, even if he's less zappy about it. Yunaka's extra resistance matters, sure, but there are plenty of places you'd prefer Zelkov's few extra points in strength or better physical bulk. I'd much rather have his extra avoid than Yunaka's extra crit as far as their personals go. There are other covert synergies. I'll mention Byleth, who gives the incredible speed +5 bonus and fail not, and Leaf, who gives +20 avoid while engaged, as fun options you can try. Once our units hit level 21 and dagger proficiency becomes available again, Zelkov gets stiffer competition for these roles, but he's still someone you might turn to for a one-off strat in a way that you wouldn't for most units. I think it's sometimes easy to over-index on the end of the game. Sure, Kagetsu can eventually be a much better thief than Zelkov, especially without the DLC, most of the game will be over by the time he gets a chance. It's important to plan for the tough endgame maps, but there are plenty of tough maps coming up Zelkov can dominate, and that matters. Yunaka and Zelkov have similar bloody pasts, as explored in their supports. Yunaka deals with that through an entertaining, extroverted persona the game gives her plenty of time to show off. Zelkov's the total opposite. He's just as competent, but prefers being a side character in this story after being the anti-hero of a different one. He just single-handedly got us our time crystal back, and after like one line of dialogue, it's as if it never happened. He may not stand out, but if you like his style, you should have no problem finding a role for him. Hi Kagetsu, welcome to the team. Oh my god, I'm such a big fan. Can I get your autograph? I gotta collect myself. This'll be a long analysis. Here's the 4-word version. Kagetsu's just built different. He's the first pre-promote since Vander, but beyond that they're as different as units can be. Vander has the worst bases and growth in the game. He's carried by a 1500 XP head start, but once others even get close, they outclass him. Kagetsu's to other units what they are to Vander. If you compare stats at the same level, Kagetsu's better and it's rarely close. Kagetsu good is about the least controversial statement in Engage, but I still think my boy is sometimes underappreciated. Kagetsu's bases aren't merely good. I'd call Zelkov's bases good. Kagetsu joins a level lower with 25 more stat points and without a single deficit. Those are ludicrous, comical, what did I do to deserve you bases. Let's say you give everyone we've gotten so far instant promotion to maximize their growths, hacking in extra seals to do it, and put them in Swordmaster until they reach Kagetsu's level, that's promoted level 6. Even with several DLC maps and serious Micaiah optimization, that's a tall order. We're already hacking in seals, so we might as well hack in free XP. How would base Kagetsu, who has required 0 training or resources, compare with that unrealistic super team? Okay, his magic and resistance aren't anything special, even if they're decent for a physical unit. What about the other stats? There are only 7 comparisons Kagetsu loses. Boucheron has 2 HP, Vander has 1 HP, Amber has 1 strength, Fram has 1 speed, Saline has 1 luck, Boucheron has 1 build. Anyone I didn't mention is worse or equal, usually worse, in every physical stat. because his magic and resistance aren't even that bad. There are 7 units so far without a single stat lead. Lapis, Louis, and Diamant at least have a tie. Alir, Alfred, Alcris, and Etty don't even manage that. They're just worse across the board. If we look at totals instead, only Chloe and Jean have the honor of being within 20 of Kagetsu's bases. I could keep going all day, but I'll restrain myself. Remember, this is an unrealistic super team where everyone promotes at level 10 and makes it to level 6 promoted. Especially without heavy Micaiah spam or DLC, there's a good chance no one on your team has a lead in anything but magic and resistance. He is like all your best physical units rolled into one handsome package. Remember, it takes 10 entire levels for a 10% difference in growths to become a single actual point. Starting 5 or 6 points ahead of someone in something means they'll probably never catch up, no matter the growths. Maybe I'm saying this because Kagetsu, like Vander, has bad growths and falls off? They are a little worse than his bases. Kagetsu's total growths are only 3rd place. Never mind. Kagetsu's growths almost duplicate Alir's. He has 5 extra points of dex and build and 15 in luck, in exchange for 5 fewer in strength and magic. That means Alir will never have better stats than Kagetsu. Alir's supposed to be good. Many units at least eventually one-up Kagetsu in something, but rarely by much, and they're normally crushed elsewhere. So Kagetsu has the game's best bases and almost the best growths. Lest you forget, he joined pre-promoted at a higher level than most of your team could hope for by now. That means Kagetsu simply has the best physical stats forever starting now. Maybe his personal skill is actually a negative and this is some creative balancing? Nah. Like many engaged units, he has a conditional hit personal. It applies in every player phase, unlike Diamant's Fair Fight or Ivy Single-Minded, but in exchange, it's only plus 10 hit. The thing is, Diamant and Ivy have, what's it called? A weakness. You know, that thing where you have a stat that isn't higher than everyone else's? And their personals help remedy that. Kagetsu has the game's best dexterity and luck, save for 2 extreme outliers, specific Jean's and Saline respectively. So with or without Blinding Flash, he's the most RNG blessed unit in the game. If you do want to get your money's worth, there are certainly bosses and units in terrain that Kagetsu will handle more reliably than basically anyone. I keep saying engage with slothfully designed, then why is Kagetsu so Kagetsu? A typo in the code? Japanese favoritism? Juiced onigiri? All compelling theories, but I have an alternative. Kagetsu may have the best stats, and I do think he's intended to be great, but he has 2 Achilles heels. He joins in one of the worst promoted classes, and he joins at the worst possible time. Swordmaster doesn't sound horrible, but Kagetsu in particular desperately wants to escape it. You can argue it's literally his worst class, even if that's probably hyperbole. Kagetsu wants to use his stats as much as humanly possible. If he can't get to the front lines and can't counterattack ranged enemies, his talents are being wasted. Unlike Chloe, his magic isn't good enough for the 11 sword to really work. Nobody's perfect. His magic's not bad for a physical unit, actually. He's perfectly happy using the Hurricane Axe or Radiant Bow, and his fantastic accuracy bulk and build are great with magic weapons as a niche option. They won't be reliable workhorses on enemy phase, though, which is why he craves axes, lances, or daggers. Even when he can fight as a swordmaster, the class holds him back. His weakest link is strength, by which I mean there exist stronger units. Still, physical benchmarks being what they are, if he misses a kill, it's normally from not doing enough damage per hit. Swordmaster's poor base strength, only 1 more than Mage Knight, and the low might of swords accentuate his only minor concern. Axes have much better damage in exchange for worse weight and hit, so you'd expect a sword fighter, say Lapis, to have iffy dexterity and poor build so they stay in their lane. Kagetsu instead matches the best dexterity and build we've seen yet. He's a natural for axes, even if his sword proficiency does limit his options. I think the idea in Swordmaster is to go for crits with the Wo Dao, and of course Kagetsu makes that work better than almost anyone, but fishing for RNG is what mere mortals like Ulcris do, and they can't one-round the normal way. Kagetsu leads Ulcris in every single stat, remember, so he can aspire to greater things. Kagetsu's join time hurts him in part by keeping him stuck in Swordmaster. Without the emblems we just lost, you can only get sword and bow proficiency until after Chapter 13, when axes become available. You'd still like to reclass into even Bow Knight or Paladin right now, but it's sensible to just save the second seal until he can reclass to use axes. With axes, Wyvern's especially great, but he makes anything good. With DLC, you don't even have to wait those 2 maps. Even with DLC though, Kagetsu's join time keeps him from early canter, which would go a long way towards making Swordmaster tolerable, and one of the few things he lacks compared to the rest of our army. For all his statistical dominance, the most important stat, movement, is one he'll lag behind in for a while. Despite those imperfections, I won't mince words. As soon as he gets physical 1-2 range and amount, Kagetsu is just the best physical unit. There's a lot of engaged debate, but you won't find many people disputing that claim with a straight face. Let's see. Amber does get early skills, has a point of strength, and... Yeah, not happening. Okay, so what are Kagetsu's ideal classes? Yes. Which emblems fit him? Yes. When does he peak? Yes. Kagetsu joining is Engage's way of telling you everything's going to be alright. Ivy may have taken the Magic Flight class and character design from Camilla, but Kagetsu is the one with her cheat code level stats. Save for a very select few, Kagetsu can do any physical build I've ever mentioned in the series better than the unit I pitched it for. If you're overwhelmed by options, just put him in Wyvern with a good emblem like Roy and he'll dominate the game. Why do anything else? I haven't mentioned Kagetsu the character yet. There's a long line of emo, edgelord sword boys in Fire Emblem, and Kagetsu endearingly subverts that typecasting. He's a cutie and a total sweetheart, all about friendship and good vibes. I think he'd feel bad taking someone else's build and just doing it way better. As such, I enjoy giving Kagetsu offbeat builds no one else wants and watching him succeed anyway. He can also be great fun as a Wyvern carry, reducing the onus on your other units, don't get me wrong. There's no bad way to use Kagetsu. You can close your eyes and pick a class and he'll merit a deployment slot. I'm quite happy he wants to be friends. Where were we? Right, running for our lives. Vale may be evil, but at least she lets me monologue in peace. The enemy flyers do not have Chloe's HP. Even Ivy can snipe one of them from afar. Zelkov's successful special ops mission means we can breathe easy. The time crystal's back. You can't rewind past this turn, so you still have to play the first part in one go, but we can afford to worry a little more about side objectives now. I'm not sure if there's actually a good story reason we can't rewind further. Modern Fire Emblem games have an unsaid agreement that if you want rewinds, you better shut up about plot holes from time travel. I will take that deal and move on. Citrine will stay back and try to score a kill or two. The Micaiah monk has not been blocked as much as I'd like, unfortunately for her. We can now focus on routing the southern half of the map. The 4 hounds are scripted to take their 4 emblems from the existing enemies, so our escape goal actually just became easier. I'm mainly trying to feed John here, so he can hit level 15 before promoting. Now that my boy Kagetsu's here to lighten the mood, it's a better time to talk about how careful this map is to hold back from many of the cheap shots inherent in its premise. Red Dark emblems don't engage, so there aren't any surprises like in Chapter 2. The Micaiah Freeze Monk will not use freeze every 3rd turn to give you a chance to escape. Every corrupted enemy on this map has a hidden skill that prevents critical hits when they initiate combat. If you get crit, it's because you chose combat with a crit chance or you let the bosses near you. There was also clearly careful consideration of how to translate the emblem skills to enemies, capturing the pathos of Vale's betrayal and fighting our beloved emblems without undue sadism. Instead of Gallop's move +5, Dark Gallop gives move +3, and there's no momentum, so the battle forecast on your turn will hold up on enemy phase. This is still a hard map. I'd say I reset on it more often than not. It is a good example of Engage's approach to difficulty, hard enough you lock in, but not so patently unfair or arbitrary that it breaks immersion. I'm now trying to set up all for one to guarantee a kill. Zelkov wants to move forward, so it's hard for him to join, but I make it work nonetheless. The new recruits join with Alir, wherever that is, so there will have to be a little adjustment from my notes.
You know.
I doubt I'll use all for one even half the time I engage Lucina, so enjoy it while you can. The dragon's energy is legitimately good, ensuring that it's 100% reliable. You get a lot of achievements at once for doing a big chain attack. If you need some VOD fragments, give it a whirl.
I will never give up.
Let me
Next one's mine.
Keep it coming!
This should do it.
Again!
I had to stop you.
Give me strong foes.
I'm listening. Simple enough. Oh.
Amber has been killing it with the RNG.
Care to join me?
I claim this victory.
I think we've seen enough deliberation from one map. With our time crystal back, I'll just figure out what I need and rewind back here when I'm done. Citrine can sometimes pick off another unit, but here the Micaiah monk has been relentless and all she can do is run. Ivy gets some bond rank using call doubles.
You got it!
I'm trying to miss with Amber here. It's all he needs to level, and Jean needs more XP. I'll again empathize that I'm being way fancier than is necessary or even all that useful. Wasting XP from promotion barely matters. Chloe's also going to get a near exact level.
My turn!
You're amazing. Let's be careful.
This bondage shield's the first of many, but here it's basically just because there's nothing better to do. The enemies blocking the exit always get Roy and Leaf, and they never move. You have to take out at least one yourself. If you have to pick, make sure it's the one who drops a Master Seal. Next turn, we'll clear out the remaining foes in our grasp, and Alir can escape.
I'll go first. Who's next?
You got it! Slashing more than prices!
Alright, Anna. Guess the bondage shield really won't matter.
I'm pretty tough, you know.
In my notes, Citrine was able to get this flyer kill, but it's convenient having Jean do it.
I need to be more diligent.
Zelkov won't be a fixture of the series, unfortunately, but at least he's going to have a flawless record.
Die! I will not dig this grave.
I spent longer than I'd like to admit trying to rig a Kagetsu crit here, but alas it did not work out. Trust me, we'll get plenty of chances. Ivy just uses Dispel doubles for the bond ring, which is normally how it goes. The main benefit would be getting to use call doubles again next turn. That means you spent your 3 engaged turns just messing around with doubles. That's sometimes useful, but not often. Each of the 4 hounds has a single line of dialogue, and I'd love to show them, but something about Zephyia one-rounding most of my army and taking basically no damage from anyone makes me think that's a bad call. Sometimes Citrine can take a kill on Marnie here, but not with my luck. That means it's time to get out of here.
Come on, everyone. Let's get out of here.
As you can probably guess, there's no post-battle exploration. Next video is a Somnial update. Bye, a papaya!
This way. We can travel to Solm through this forest. I hate to abandon Hortensia, but staying in the kingdom is not an option.
There's too much we're leaving behind.
Father. It's painful, but we can't turn back. We'd lose everything.
I will lead the way.
I failed you, Marth. I failed you all.
So, Ivy was scheming against us. She stole 2 emblems from right under my nose. How irksome. Regardless, the advantage is mine. I have all of the rings they gathered. You shall all be destroyed. I will gut your allies, burn down your countries, and crush your spirits.
We should be safe now.
Vale is Sombron's daughter, and now she has our emblem rings. I'm sorry, everyone. I should never have brought us to the cathedral.
It's not your fault, Divine One.
I should apologize. I asked you to let me fight. I was so angry about what they'd done.
What about me? I'm the one who wanted to return Father to Brodia.
That was illogical.
Excuse me? If you hadn't gotten in the way...
Calm down, everyone. We're on the same side.
No, we're not. If not for her, we might have made it in time. We might have saved him.
Allchrist.
Princess Ivy told us about the ritual in the first place. Without her help, Father would still be one of those creatures.
Diamant? She helped kill our father. Why are you making excuses for her?
Princess Ivy's not to blame. Her father was. And the Fell Dragon murdered him. There wasn't even a body left behind.
Arguing won't get us anywhere.
Apologies, Divine One. Princess Ivy, I hope you'll forgive my brother. He spoke out of turn.
No, it's all right. I am sorry that I couldn't stop the ritual.
I can't bear the thought that I'll never see him again. And the ring he spent his whole life protecting. Gone.
We have suffered loss after loss, but the emblems aren't dead. We can still get them back, and we will. I know we will.
Divine One.
You still have emblems on your side.
That's right. Don't forget about us.
Lynn. Lucina.
All is far from lost. We can offer our unique strengths as emblems.
You can still challenge your fate. You don't lose by retreating.
I wish it didn't come to this. My mother told me that a divine dragon should never run away.
We're not running away. As Lucina said, we're retreating. There's a difference. Time and again, you've shown true bravery, even in the face of daunting odds, but refusing to move on. That's not bravery, it's folly.
There's courage, and there's stubbornness. Lumera would have taught you the difference. Unfortunately, in your short time together, she didn't have the chance.
Perhaps that's why Marth said what he did, outside the cathedral.
Probably so.
Now, at least, I understand. We're not running away. We're stepping back. Gathering our strength for the next battle. I'll become a better fighter. A better leader. I'll make sure no one, not one more person, loses their life under my command. And I'll bring back our friends, the Emblems. What do you say, everyone? Are you with me?
You know I am. Let's turn the tables on them.
I won't rest until we reclaim what we've lost.
Even now you have hope. I will stand with you too, Divine One.
I will help too, if you'll have me.
Thank you, everyone. Now, to the Queendom of Sol. Stay with me, and I promise to keep you safe.